Sorry for the delay today, folks. Apologize. We'll call the Jackson Select Board meeting to order. February 4th, 2020 at 4 o'clock. A little late today, 4:12 I got. So first on the docket is approval for the minutes on January 21st. Now I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 21st meeting.
I'll second that.
Any discussion, any questions, concerns, issues, corrections?
No?
We can stop meeting like this then.
You look good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, sir. Item number 3 are action items. We had nothing that was on our agenda here for this. Do we have any department head updates?
They're just going to be
They're going to be doing their thing today anyways. All right, and upcoming meetings and things. We have 25th Selectmen's meeting at 4 p.m. Town elections March 10th and 12th. Town meeting at 7 p.m. at the Whitney Center, and the 24th will be a Selectmen's meeting for the new term. And of course, we have the elections on the 11th, right?
Right.
Do we still need volunteers for that, for the election?
No,
We're good?
unless you want more dollars.
Congress won't say no to anybody. It's gonna be a long day.
What time do you need folks for counting?
6:45 preferably, so that when I close the polls right at 7, I can get ready to do it. It's instructions and we decide.
Contact you?
Not have that meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm not gonna be here.
Or, okay.
I don't believe Bobby's gonna be here.
Okay. Yeah, that was it. Thank you.
Just
I
that,
think that was good.
and you can be here, but you
I
can't.
should do. I'm be rather not. All right, thank you on that, both. All right, item number 4, petition article. We have a petition article here. Resolution to take action on climate pollution. And I don't want to read this whole thing, do I? What do we got? Julie?
The person that submitted it, I don't believe is here. Bruce. He was going to be here to explain, so maybe that will happen at the warrant article.
Okay, well, we'll table that then and come back to it.
He may show up. He was at the a Conservation Commission meeting last night and spoke to it. It's about impact of carbon emissions. It's something we would support if we chose to support it. It won't cost us anything.
I like that.
Yeah, it's just for the selectmen's office to send a letter if approved.
So we're on board, basically.
Could I ask you a question on that?
Sure, sir.
Well,
The person who submitted this is not here to answer that question probably, but go ahead.
well, I heard you just talking amongst yourself, but along with that carbon emissions, and I read it, and cost and so on, I think that something that should be brought up in that aspect is that we, in the town of Jackson, pay to hire a bus driver, have buses in our town, and how many young people drive their automobiles to Kennett High School, and the increase in parking spaces because we have so many driving. So if you want to talk about carbon emissions, maybe we should, figure out how we can get our students to drive and ride on the bus rather than their own private vehicles.
I'll send you
That's not
every
on the
teenager's
warrant
phone number.
Yeah, good luck on that.
Well,
I mean, it's provided service, true.
Yeah.
It's just like public transportation. You don't have to take it.
Right.
It's there, but it's,
correct, but when you're talking about carbon emissions, I think that that's something that should be maybe cited in it to just show that it's not just up to us people that are
Sure.
driving back and forth to work, it's also, you know, the young people who drive back and forth to school.
And they can carpool as well if they choose to drive, absolutely. No, I agree with you. Alrighty, we have a correction to the minutes here, is that what I'm looking at?
For the building inspector section, there was, on January 14th, there was something said about White Mountain Oil and their delivery, and they'd like that corrected.
Alright, so I'll read this. It says, per our phone conversation about the propane odor at 276 Moody Farm Road last week, we discussed that we have not delivered to this account since October and have not done any work there since setting the tank in 2012. As for the owner hooking up his propane tank and unhooking it, we have no authority over that issue. Our license and AHJ authority having jurisdiction starts at the outlet of the regulator and is not the valve and nor POL connector at the tank. Technically, we recommend that the owners do not connect or disconnect and leak check their own fittings at the tank valve connection. But we do, as White Mountain Oil propane, cannot stop or enforce or know when this happens. If you decide on the behalf of the town as a building inspector to write a letter as the authority of having jurisdiction on this matter we have discussed, please cite the code chapter and definition you refer to and a copy of us to White Mountain Oil and Propane so we are on the same page when the customer potentially complains going forward. Thanks. So I guess that's just a note from those guys regarding that. Of course, they can't possibly know when somebody changes something. And obviously I'm not privy to that information, nor could they do anything to control that. So
it's pretty much a disclaimer of any
right.
Liability for them.
All right, so moving on to building 5, item 5, building inspector. Kevin is not here today?
He's sick.
He is
He's sick, that's right, so.
Didn't want to share that with us.
Good man.
Appreciate that. So we have 2 on the books today. First one is R08 Lot 13 Owner Bridge, 28 Beach Hill Road, renovating kitchen, replacing entrance deck. And the second one is V08 Lot 205 Owner Plord. I believe you pronounce it that way, I'm not sure though. 21 Middle Mountain Trail, replace carrier beam and stairs on deck. So those are the only 2 building permits for this week. Any questions or comments on those?
Nope.
All right. We had a number, moving on to new business, we had a number of assessment hearings. Jason Call met with a bunch of people regarding their evaluations, as you would expect. I guess those are your copies there. And we have in here a list of adjustments. Typically in the past, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've just kind of wholesale blanket
And you can do the same, unless there's anything.
approve of these unless there's anything in here that somebody cares to challenge, I guess, or discuss.
I didn't see any, reviewed them.
Obviously, Jason spent quite a bit of time talking to these people and working these out.
He wrote a letter of justification for each.
Right.
Right,
That I don't see how we
and here
can
they are.
dispute that.
yeah,
I mean, he's the one who was there.
right. And he's the one responsible for those evaluations, so I guess I'll entertain a motion to accept these hearing
I would make that motion.
assessment reviews. Thank you.
And I'll second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Also under new business was a letter regarding the ordinance of Wentworth. I thought we had it at 10:30, Chief. The noise ordinance, was that at 10?
That is a very interesting question, because the town of Jackson does not have a noise ordinance.
Right.
The proposed one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right. The 10:30 time is a liquor license condition with establishments that host weddings. The ordinance, just for jumping off place, was 10 p to 6 a, because that was the time that was in some of the ordinances from other communities I used. However, I updated the proposed ordinance to change it to 10:30 because those facilities already have a condition of 10:30. So the ordinance would be consistent with the liquor license condition.
Super, thank you for doing that. Appreciate that. Any concerns, questions, comments on that?
Nope, makes sense.
We'll get back to those ordinances, obviously, today when we get to the budget hearing. All righty, any other new business?
Okay.
Item number 7, any old business? Nothing on the docket. Does anybody have anything? All right, we'll move on to item 8, public comments. Here we go. D.
Do we have any police coverage on Friday and Saturday nights in the evening?
Yes and no. We have coverage on Friday nights till 8 o'clock. Ryan works a 12-hour shift on Fridays. And we have coverage till 4 o'clock on Saturdays.
Does that ever change because of events and things like that?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it always changes, event-based, like the chocolate tour and like the bridge dance and things. But when Officer Bork is back from the academy, it will be consistently from 6 in the morning. Well, we've got a couple of options that we're working on the schedule now. It'll be from 6 in the morning till 11 at night, or it could be 6 in the morning till midnight will be the coverage, depending on what structure we use for cover, and that's 7 days a week. So barring court, vacation, illness, or training. So
And when is he scheduled to come back?
his projected graduation date is April 24th. He's then attending a wedding, and then he'll be back, probably starting that Monday. 24th is Friday.
Any other public comments?
Yeah, you guys said you were gonna talk about the Class 6 road. I want to know where that stood. In White Mountain.
Just from the last week's discussion?
Two meetings ago, and then I was here a week or so ago, and Dick said it was on this agenda. I want to know where, because you guys are gonna have a work session or whatever.
Well, I thought we were gonna have a reading of the ordinances.
Right, the ones, you're talking about the ones for the ordinances?
No,
No,
this
this
isn't
was
the
a different
ordinance. You guys were gonna close, Hurley wanted to close down Cardinal Road and the end of Black Mountain where it's Class 6.
We talked about that
We're supposed
last.
to have a work session with Pat and everything, and you guys.
And it wasn't closed, it was restricted. And we did have a work session, and there was some legal questions Dick was gonna ask the Summit New Hampshire Municipal. And there was also a language change to the proposed ordinance. The language change was exempted certain vehicles, and I had the ordinances out, I didn't have that proposal, but I think the exemptions were property owners, and this is only the section of Carter Notch north of Valentine Landing and the section of Black Mountain Road north or beyond 551, so the gate. So it was property owners, emergency vehicles working, municipal vehicles working. It was agricultural and farming equipment. It was also maple sugaring vehicles, delivery of dairy products, and also fuel. And those exceptions are consistently the exceptions that are associated with the road ban, with the addition of agriculture, because I don't know if that's a road ban exemption, but probably should be if somebody's going to take care of animals, and property owners. So all of those groups are exempt from the restriction. So that was what we changed. But there was some legal question that had to be asked, of which I did not know the answer.
Well, basically, we can't restrict access to a Class 6 road.
That's what, well, that's what I did.
We can make suggestions on, it's like, you can't save people from themselves. You know, what we're worried about is the guy in a four-wheel drive is gonna go up there with enough snow on the ground to get bogged down or go off the road or whatever, and gag up the road so it isn't accessible. But I don't think we're trying to limit the road use when it's passable. It's a Class 6 road. We don't maintain it, we don't plow it. If you go in there and get stuck on it, you're a problem. And the chief is just trying to find a way to basically enforce some restrictions on cowboys. I think that, you know, that's who's gonna go in there. But he's not trying to limit access to a property owner or valid agricultural use.
Yeah, well, it only goes so far, I mean, in terms of government anyways, after the Skeetorns Bridge, the second bridge. I mean, it's government land.
Right.
So, I mean,
But if you restrict the access to the front part, then you protect the participants of the recreational participants, which is my goal. Not to keep people out of those areas that have legitimate personal or professional interests. That certainly is important. It's so that when the town of Jackson allows people to play in the roadway, which is what we're doing in essence, that there's some restrictions so that we can dissuade people from doing it who go up there, if we're up there when they do it. Or if they do it and they come up the road, they get stuck, they cause, risk to people, they can be accountable. That's the goal of the suggestion.
Ken?
Yeah, I think the other thing is, in the past, the Jackson Ski Touring Foundation has been asked to pull out a lot of vehicles.
I think they have
And
in case of
we are checking our insurance right now, but we may not be able to do that in the future because of liability issues. We're checking that right now. But we may not be insured for it.
Snow, we'll buy a tow truck.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, go out for a price.
Absolutely.
Right dollar, right?
We may get the next customers.
Do you want this back on for old business next time?
Certainly. Good idea. Any other public comments?
Well, it's just basically,
What you got?
we have a hard time closing a Class 6 road. It is a right-of-way. So we're not trying to close the road. We're just trying to make the use of it agreeable to everybody, or as many people as we can, without having problems, having ski. In Dundee, I live on the crossroad and it goes into a Class 6 road. I've been in there pulling people out because I'm the first house with a telephone, so they walk out to me and I'll go in with my tractor and I'll pull them out. But I may be in the same situation. If I rip their bumper off, am I liable for that? I don't know.
Well, the reverse is just like logging, where if that chain snapped and came back and hit one of our employees, we'd be sued right up there.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're trying to be a nice person and sometimes it comes back to bite you, so, yeah, we'll look at it.
I had a question getting back to B's comment on the timing for the police department coverage. Are there certain hours of the day that we would expect police coverage, such that on a Friday night or a Saturday night, that should be covered no matter what, and the patrolman's hours shifted to those, rather than just if somebody's going off for training, well, the time from 4 o'clock in the afternoon till midnight on a Friday or Saturday doesn't get covered?
Well, we do currently change schedules to accommodate gaps. Like, for instance, we had an officer that was on sick call for a period of time. He had a minor procedure. So we adjusted our schedules so that the remainder of us would cover the open days, so that we don't ever have a completely open day. However, you know, I can't have people working 16 hours a day. That becomes cost prohibitive and detrimental to them as well as to the level of service. So to answer your question, yes, it does get modified to cover gaps. It's easier to modify when we are full staffed, which will occur in April. Though we currently do that. But I do want to make a point, and this is a perfect time for this discussion, is, and this is based on the most current data, the 2019 data on when we get calls, when we have activity. Because I believe in data-driven decision-making on everything that we do in the police department. And it's funny how everybody talks about Friday and Saturday night. But a Jackson Police Department week, as far as activity goes, is not a regular week. And it may be counterintuitive. But based on the total number of calls that we had in a given year, which was north of 4,300 calls for service in a given year, our activity breaks down like this by week. Busiest to least busy. Tuesday, Wednesday, Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So oddly, Friday and Saturday are our two slowest days for activity. Now, by time, between 6 in the morning and 10 at night, which is our primary staffing, 93.8% of our calls come in. We have call coverage from 2 o'clock till 6 o'clock. The officers are on call. So during that period of time, only 1.5% of calls come in. From 11 till 6, 6.2%, the remaining 6.2% of the calls come in. So when there is an officer on call, 1.5% of the calls come in. So there's only 4.7% of our calls aren't a Jackson officer responding to. Everything else is covered. But I think that's kind of interesting and always bears repeating when we talk about where was the cop Friday night. Well, we can't physically have 16 hours of coverage every day with the previous, with the current structure that we have. But the days that we do have the maximum coverage coincide with the maximum amount of demand that we have. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Mondays. So we try to get the best bang for our buck with what we have currently right now. So, does that answer your question?
Somewhat. What about the time between 6 o'clock in the morning and noontime on those days? Is that a busy period, or is that not so busy?
6 to noon. I'll tell you. Well, there's always somebody here from 6 to noon. Because it breaks down like this. If we have full coverage in the day, it's 16 hours in the day. So that's from 6 in the morning till 10 at night. If for some reason we can't have full coverage, then we default to day shift because the bulk of our calls and activity is during the daytime hours. So there's no day shift goes open to the benefit of a night shift, because that would be having the least amount of people here when the most amount of demand occurs. But you said between 6 and noon, between 6 and noon is 6, 15, 25, 27, 35, 46, 46, 54, 58. That's about 59% of our calls.
Okay. I didn't know if it made sense to shift some hours. That's all.
Yeah, well, we do. But if it's always kind of a raw period to take call. But at the end of the day, if you only have one person to deploy, the best time to deploy them is from 6 in the morning till 2, or 7 to 3, or 8 to 4. Right now, what we're doing, I don't love public discussion about staffing because it kind of can tip your hand a little bit. But you asked a question and I'm going to answer it. When we have solo patrol, what we call solo patrol, if you have no relief, then we staff from 8 to 4. That's really the kind of the meat and potatoes of the activity. So if we have double patrol, we go out till 6 and then we go till 10. That changes a little seasonally because when it's lighter and in summertime, we try to roll it so that it ends with 11. So it can actually, with the structure that we've kind of looked at, we may be able to get 17 hours with 2 people instead of 16 by doing some things with the 10-hour shifts versus 8.
Thank you.
Sarah?
When you say 59% between those hours, is that including the house checks that you do?
Yeah, that's all activity, all activity.
Willis?
I'd just like to say that I think it's great to have statistics, but we're a small town and we're on the tail end of the road, especially Saturday nights. There's a good many times we're up in Pinkham Notch with fire call or an accident mostly. We have to wait till almost, I can't cite statistics or exact times, but when you've got to wait for a sheriff's deputy, Carroll County Sheriff's deputy, to come from Ossipee, we're at the tail end of the line. It's just not here. The very last incident was great because there was a state trooper right in Conway and got quick, but it gets pretty lonely out there, and I'd like to think that it'll take a little time, but we should somehow, some way, no matter what, make an exception to that schedule so that we do have coverage at an evening. Because during the day, if we don't have a guy on because he's covering the night, there's probably a whole lot better chance getting your backup people state or when I would Conway get here first. I mean, it's just, Saturday nights are tough, and you don't get very many calls, but the few you get, it's really lonely out there at 10 o'clock at night in a snowstorm, and you got people's coming out. We had a pretty bad accident in front of Oakley in the Wildcat Service one night, and it was a Saturday night in the village. Granted, it only lasted 40 minutes, but it's insane traffic for a short period of time. I think, I'm not trying to say badly, but I think I'd like to go on record for the town to say, wait a minute, we like the statistics, I think that's great, but I think for the town of Jackson, whether we're full staffed or not, the schedule should be accommodated, and especially in the wintertime, because storms change everything. At least Saturday night, we'd have coverage till 11 or 12 o'clock. That's just my opinion.
Thank you. The problem with that, the problem with saying data be damned or statistics be damned is it's a bad assignment of a limited resource. Now to say, well, we're up here to pay Paul and take somebody off day shift and stick them on night shift because everybody around us will help us is wrong, because everybody around us is busier during the day than they are at night. So that wouldn't work. So that's why there will always be events that occur, and maybe someone's not working and another agency has to show up, and it may be a big event to you. But in the total scheme of things, we're getting the best bang we can for the coverage with the resources that we have. Furthermore, and the concern from Willis and the fire department is always associated with a car crash. That is a bad event. It can be very manpower intensive, but it is far less substantial communally, has less impact than, say, daytime residential burglaries. Now, we have reduced daytime residential burglaries with our patrol scheme to 0. Now, I would like you to find the other town in Carroll County that had 0 residential burglaries last year, because you won't find one, because we're the only one. So you can say these statistics be damned, but that's why I assign people when I assign them, because it gives you the best return on your money, and it has the best impact on public safety. So I, as the manager of this department, would not do that, even though an occasional crash late at night may make you wait. Okay, I'm sorry you have to wait, but it's a bad change just to make you feel good about a singular event. It's just not good policy.
Sarah?
Just out of curiosity, how many burglaries in the daytime did we have prior to your statistics, or can you show us some statistics?
Which year? Because for the last 10 years, you had burglaries every year.
1, 2, 3?
Depends on the year.
Well, multiple ones every year. So I don't know how many you'd like to tolerate, but I like 0.
Well, I agree, but you're good with statistics, I'd like to know the statistics.
Well, I can't tell you how many burglaries you had every year, but you had burglaries every year for the last 10 years. I only look back the last 10 years. But this year, 2019, we had 0. And the reason we had 0 is because that's probably the biggest risk to the community because of the nature of the community. And that's where we can put the best resource with the limitations that we have. We have another person, when Officer Bork gets out of the academy, we will, majority of the time, have coverage from daytime to nighttime. But to take someone off of a day shift, to stick them on a Saturday night for an occasional crash that might make you wait, is bad policy and a bad application of resources.
I gotta move on here.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make
Sure.
qualification. I said, from my feeling, it's not that I'm feeling lonely or feeling good or bad, it's 100% safe. We're out there, a lot of times, we're very understaffed on a Saturday night. We're on a bad curve, Black Mountain Road, Route 16, you name it, and it creates, a lot of times, we have to be really extra careful. Because traffic with an accident, unless the road is totally shut down, they don't slow down for red lights, blue lights, or anything. And that's all my point being, it's not to feel good, it's safety.
Yeah.
And that's important to me.
Any other public comments? All right. We do not have a non-public session, right? So I will ask.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting and move into the budget hearing.
I will second that motion.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll take